What began as a normal day along Brazil's southeastern coast quickly turned into a chaotic and unsettling episode. On the morning of Tuesday, July 29th, the sea off the coast of Rio de Janeiro began to behave in an unusual and alarming way. Waves started rising with unexpected force, driven by a powerful extratropical cyclone that had developed days earlier over the South Atlantic. What initially seemed like another winter weather system rapidly evolved into a real threat to coastal cities. Meteorological authorities warned that winds would exceed 100 kilometers per hour. The mix of cold and warm air triggered a drop in atmospheric pressure and pushed a massive body of water directly toward the Brazilian coast. While this wasn't technically a tsunami, the waves that struck areas like Leblon, Maricá, and Barra de Guaratiba reached up to 4 meters in height, sweeping away everything in their path. The images said it all. Vehicles carried by the current, flooded garages, and streets vanishing under a blanket of seawater. In Leblon, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods and among the hardest hit, the waves breached the coastal avenue and surged into private properties. Delfim Moreira Street was completely shut down as emergency crews tried to stop the ocean's advance. Beach kiosks lowered their shutters with no idea of when they'd reopen. The high-value real estate, with apartments priced over 10 million reais, stood in stark contrast to its sudden exposure to the fury of nature. Farther west, in Barra de Guaratiba, the situation was just as critical. The waves even reached parked buses near the shoreline. Several routes were completely flooded. Local authorities suspended transportation in multiple districts and urged residents to avoid any travel near the coast. Meanwhile, residents recorded videos on their phones that quickly went viral. Boats floating down streets, power poles swaying, and waves slamming violently into buildings. In Maricá, another municipality severely affected, the sea broke apart coastal roads near beaches like Itaipucu, Ponta Negra, and Restinga.
Evacuated, HPD evacuated Alabama Beach Park. So
The sheer power of the surf forced the closure of multiple access points and triggered alerts from civil defense teams. Although no casualties or major structural damage were reported at the time, coastal communities were on edge. Meanwhile, in Saquarema, a bizarre phenomenon left many residents stunned. Thick sea foam blanketed several beaches, including Panha and Praça de Ouriçum, advancing all the way into the city center. This foam, caused by decomposing organic matter mixed with violent wave movement, alarmed locals. Authorities, however, clarified that there was no contamination risk. It wasn't the only issue in that area. The Saquarema Lagoon also saw a significant rise in water level, leading to the sinking of a dredging machine that had been operating there. The State Institute of the Environment confirmed the equipment was out of service and contained no hazardous materials. Still, several local fishermen called for continuous monitoring, worried about possible long-term ecological damage. The phenomenon also coincided with a sharp drop in temperature. That same day, Rio de Janeiro recorded its coldest temperature of the year, 10 degrees Celsius. The chilly air, combined with partly cloudy skies and strong winds, deepened the feeling of unease. The forecast offered little relief. Winds were expected to remain intense through Friday and Saturday. The Brazilian Navy issued an official statement warning of dangerous offshore conditions from July 29th to July 31st. Residents and boaters were urged to stay away from the water. The alert was direct. The waves would continue through Thursday night, after which they were expected to gradually weaken. Emergency crews began work at dawn in places like Rua 70 and Rua 1 in Maricá. Their efforts focused on clearing blocked roads, removing debris, and securing hazardous access points. Meanwhile, the public followed weather updates closely, with hourly reports monitoring the ocean's behavior. In many areas, public transportation was canceled, businesses suspended operations, and numerous families chose to evacuate their beachfront homes temporarily. In that atmosphere, community resilience played a vital role. Neighbors helped each other, assisted the elderly, and ensured children were moved to safer areas. Experts explained that extratropical cyclones are not uncommon during this time of year, but their impact varies depending on their trajectory, intensity, and duration. In this case, the system remained active for several days off the South Atlantic, aggressively pushing seawater toward Brazil's shoreline and generating what's known as a meteorological tide. While the effects of such events are often short-lived, the combination of storm surges, wind, and extreme cold left a lasting mark. In some parts of the coast, retaining walls were overwhelmed, and in others, they simply vanished under the force of the sea. No sirens were needed for people to realize nature had taken over. Strangely enough, while all this was happening in Brazil, a magnitude 8.8 earthquake struck off the coast of Russia, triggering a tsunami in the Pacific. Some media outlets tried to link the two events, but experts quickly dismissed the idea. They were completely separate phenomena with no connection. Back in Brazil, officials reminded the public that events like this highlight the importance of heeding official warnings. Every winter, extratropical cyclones pose a significant threat to coastal communities. By Thursday, the winds finally began to lose strength, and the sea showed signs of retreat. Even so, the work was far from over. Recovery efforts had just begun. Authorities assessed structural damage, cleaned streets covered in mud and salt, and attempted to restore a sense of normalcy to daily life. For many, this was their first time experiencing a phenomenon of this scale. The realization that the sea could invade streets, homes, and businesses so abruptly left a deep impression. It wasn't just a scare, it was a wake-up call. Drone footage and local camera images revealed a coastline barely recognizable. Beaches destroyed, uprooted trees, boats stranded in strange places. Each image captured a moment of chaos. In the following days, authorities increased coastal surveillance, and emergency teams remained on alert in case of further wave activity. Calm was slowly returning, but the memory of what had just occurred was still vivid. Scientists warned that such events could become more intense in the future due to climate change. Rising ocean temperatures and atmospheric instability create ideal conditions for stronger cyclones. Cities like Rio de Janeiro, Maricá, and Saquarema were reminded once again that living by the sea is a privilege, but also a responsibility. The ocean gives, but it also takes away. And even though there were no fatalities this time, the message was clear: nature's power is not negotiable. It can only be respected.